Hello everyone and welcome back to Nocturnal Narrative Studio. I know many of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know which country you're listening from. Without further ado, let's begin the story. I don't know how long I've been awake, but something in me is certain that whatever's keeping me up isn't just insomnia anymore. The nights are too quiet, my apartment feels too still, and sometimes, just sometimes, I think I hear typing from my laptop when I'm not even touching it. Maybe I'm just losing it, right? But then the thread started replying to me, by name, and I swear to God I never told anyone who I was. That's when the fear really set in. It started like most dumb things on the internet do. Some bored night at 2:11 a.m., too tired to sleep, too wired to relax. I was doing my usual doom scroll on Reddit, bouncing between creepy posts, shower thoughts, and cat videos when I saw a thread in r true off my chest titled, Thread 0, Confess and Die. Sounded like a joke. The kind of edgelord nonsense you expect from kids trying too hard to scare each other. I clicked without thinking twice. The post was bare bones. No frills, no pictures, just a sentence. Post your real sins below. This thread will track the ones who lie. The dead stay quiet. I chuckled. It sounded like one of those ARGs that never go anywhere. Everyone in the comments was either trolling or making up stuff that sounded ripped from soap operas and cheap horror fiction. I cheated on my husband with his brother. I left my baby in the car and lied about it. I buried my cat alive. Total BS, all of it. But the weird thing was, every so often, a comment would get deleted, not by the user, but, like, gone, removed. And the only thing left was a reply from the original poster. Thread 0 received, countdown begins. No one replied to those. No jokes, no follow-ups, just a sudden, strange silence under each one. It was eerie, but probably just mods playing along, right? That's what I thought. I couldn't help myself. I made an account just to join the circus. Username, I am nobody, you're zero. I typed up a fake confession, something ridiculous about pushing a kid down the stairs in grade school. I hit post and waited. A couple downvotes, one guy called me a fraud, that was it. No spooky reply, no countdown. I was honestly a little disappointed. For a thread so hyped up in the comments, it sure lost steam quick. Hours passed, maybe more. I wasn't even sure anymore. I just sort of stared at my screen in that fuzzy, half-awake state, the kind where the real world feels distant and strange. That's when I noticed a reply under my comment. It hadn't been there before. Not from another user. From the original poster, Thread 00. The message just said, wrong sin. Try again, my real name. I froze. Cold ran down my back like someone had just opened a freezer behind me. My name. My real name. Not connected to that account, not in any bio, not anywhere. I checked again, then triple-checked. There was no way they could have known that. But there it was, bold and undeniable, staring at me like a grin. I thought maybe I was being messed with. Maybe someone I knew was pulling a prank. But none of my friends were into Reddit like that, and nobody, not even my ex, knew about that username. I made sure of it. It was my anonymous lurking account. Clean, fresh, separate from everything. Allison, no way to trace it back to me unless you were inside my phone, and I replied. Because of course I did. Okay, you got my name. Now what? You gonna spook me with more creepypasta lines? My fingers shook a little, but I was still mostly annoyed. If it was a troll, they were really committed. If it was a bot, well, that was one hell of a coincidence. I refreshed the page. Nothing. Went to bed still shaking my head. It was probably some mod with access to IP logs or something, right? Had to be. But the next morning, the message was different. The reply had changed. Same username, same comment. Spot. Only now it read, Thread 0 watches at night, you still haven't confessed. I felt sick. Not scared yet, but uneasy in a way that made my coffee taste bitter and my chest feel heavy. like something was creeping just behind my eyes and I couldn't shake it. I stayed off Reddit the rest of that day. I told myself it was stupid anyway. Fake, dumb internet game. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. The name, the way the message changed, the cold feeling I had when I sat too close to the window, like something was watching. It sounds crazy to say that now, but in that moment, it didn't feel like a thought. It felt like a warning. That night, I dreamt of wires, not like loose cables or anything. No, it was worse. The wires were wrapped around people, tight, digging in like barbed restraints. And in the middle of it all was a glowing screen with my Reddit comment on it. Every time I tried to move, a new wire would twist around my limbs, pull tighter, cut deeper. And something was laughing. Not loud, just a low chuckle, like it was sitting in the dark, enjoying the show. I woke up drenched in sweat. My phone was on, the Reddit app was open, and my last message, "You gonna spook me with more creepypasta lines?" was gone, deleted, but not by me. In its place was a new comment from thread 000. "Confession begins tomorrow. You will know the time." I swear I didn't sleep after that. I just lay there watching the clock move slower than I thought possible. The next day my lights flickered. Once, twice, then shut off completely for a few seconds before humming back on. The Wi-Fi cut out. My laptop turned on by itself. No joke, just blinked awake like it had somewhere to be. And on the screen, the thread, open, scrolling by itself, comment after comment blinking into deletion like someone was editing the past in real time. Then, I saw it, another new message pinned at the top. "User I'm nobody 0, confession due." That was me. It was pointing right at me. I tried to close the window. It wouldn't let me. I tried to shut down the laptop. It blinked. Then another message appeared. "Do you remember what you did at the lake house in 2012? I couldn't breathe. I hadn't thought about that in years. No one knew about the lake house. No one. That was supposed to be buried, forgotten. It wasn't even my sin. I was just there, just a witness. I didn't even do anything. But now I started to wonder. Maybe that was the point. Maybe doing nothing was enough for the thread to come knocking. And I swear, right then I heard it. Just behind me near the hallway. The sound of typing. Slow, deliberate, like someone with all the time in the world. I turned. No one there. Just shadows. But when I looked back, my screen had changed again. One final line pulsing like a heartbeat. "Confession due in 24 hours. Or thread 0 will tell it for you." I didn't go to work the next day. I didn't even call in sick. I just sat at my desk, staring at my laptop like it might bite me if I looked away. My stomach felt hollow, like I'd swallowed a handful of stones. Every sound, the wind, the creaking floor, the low hum of the fridge felt like it was trying to say something I couldn't quite hear. I told myself it was just a prank. Some messed up Reddit game meant to scare people for clout or karma. But that didn't explain the name. The lake house. The feeling that someone, or something, had peeled the lid off a box I didn't even remember locking. The silence in the room wasn't regular silence anymore. It was watching me. Around 3 p.m., my phone lit up with a notification. It wasn't from Reddit. It was a local news alert. The headline read, "Unidentified male found dead in apartment. Authorities suspect online activity may be involved." My blood turned to ice. I clicked, heart hammering. The article didn't say much, but it mentioned the guy had posted something on Reddit hours before he died. No foul play, no forced entry. Just found stiff and pale in front of his computer. I searched for his Reddit username. It took some digging, but I found it in a comment archive site. He had posted in the same thread, thread 0. His confession had been simple. "I faked cancer for money on GoFundMe." The timestamp matched the night I saw that comment get deleted. With the countdown begins message, I tried to breathe but felt like I was choking on air. I logged into Reddit again. I don't know why. Maybe to check if it was still there. If maybe, somehow I could prove to myself this was all a coincidence. But the thread looked different now. There were fewer comments, and the ones that remained were either deleted or edited into black squares. Literal black square symbols, nothing else. It looked like the page was rotting from the inside out. A new message was pinned at the top. It was short, but my heart dropped reading it. 23 hours remain. We know. I slammed the laptop shut and nearly knocked over my coffee. I ran my hands through my hair and just sat there shaking for what felt like hours. What did they know? Who were they? What exactly was I being punished for? Because if this was about the lake house, then I wasn't the only one. There were others, people more involved than me, but I'd never told anyone, never even said it out loud. I picked up my phone to call someone, anyone. I didn't even know who. I opened my contacts and hovered over Sam's name. He was there that weekend. He saw what happened, but before I could tap the screen, the contact disappeared, just vanished. I blinked, thinking I'd imagined it, but it was gone. I checked, again scrolled through, and Sam was no longer in my phone. Like he'd been erased. Panicking, I tried searching Facebook, Instagram, anything, but it was like he never existed. Even our old messages were wiped. The pictures from the lake house blurred out. I mean literally blurred, like someone took an eraser to the people in them. The woods were there, the house, but the figures? All gone. Even mine. My reflection in one picture was just a smudge of gray, like a ghost had been standing there instead of me. It was getting dark outside. I hadn't eaten, I hadn't moved. My apartment felt like it had sunk underground, cold, heavy, and full of something I couldn't see. I turned the lights on and they flickered again. My laptop beeped. I opened it without meaning to, like something inside me was guiding my hand. The Reddit thread was open again. Only one comment on the whole thing now. From thread 000, "We took Sam, don't be next." I screamed. I actually screamed. Not like in the movies, but like some animal in a trap. I felt raw, like my skin didn't fit anymore. I threw the laptop across the room and it landed with a sick crack, screen still glowing. That glow filled the room for a moment, then died. And the silence after felt final, like the quiet after a storm that had just knocked down your whole house. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just sat in the corner of my room with a kitchen knife, watching the front door. Every time the pipes groaned or the building shifted, I held my breath, waiting, wondering if I should run or confess. But confess what? I hadn't done anything. Not really. I didn't stop it, sure, but I didn't cause it either. Was that enough to deserve this? At 4:12 a.m., the fire alarm in my apartment went off. No smoke, no heat, just the blaring sound of something meant to wake the dead. I grabbed my coat and ran into the hallway, heart beating so hard I thought it might break through my chest. But the hallway was empty. No neighbors, no footsteps. Just that high-pitched scream echoing through the walls. And then, it stopped. Just like that. Mid-wail, the alarm cut out. Silence returned, thicker than before. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out with shaking hands and saw a new Reddit notification. "You are now muted in true off my chest." Followed by another. "You've been permanently banned from posting." I tried to open the app, it crashed. I tried again, crash. One more time, nothing. Just a blank white screen with a single black line at the top. Then slowly, letters typed themselves across the top of the screen. "Time's almost up, you know what we want." I dropped the phone. I didn't pick it up again. I just stood there in the hallway thinking about the lake house, about the scream we heard that night, about the body in the water and the decision we made to pretend it was all just an accident. The bruises on her arms, the look on her face, the way none of us wanted to admit how far it had gone until it was too late. I told myself I'd never talk about it, that I'd keep my head down and move on, that silence was better than jail, or guilt, or having to face what we let happen that night. But Thread Zero doesn't forget. It doesn't forgive, and it doesn't care who pulled the trigger, only who stayed quiet. Now the lights in my apartment are off again. Not just off, dead. The power's out. My phone screen is glowing again, even though the battery was at 1%, and there's a message waiting. Just one line. Final warning, confess, or we will. And God help me, I think I finally believe them. I didn't speak to anyone the next day. Didn't answer texts, didn't respond to emails. Not that there were many. I think people have a way of sensing when someone is slipping too far into the dark, even if they don't know why. The silence from everyone else made it worse. Like the world was giving me space to fall apart in peace. I paced my apartment with the curtains drawn, flipping lights on and off like I could scare something out of hiding. Nothing came out, but nothing felt safe either. By late afternoon, I'd convinced myself I needed to leave. Not because I thought running would work, but because staying put felt like dying slowly. I threw clothes into a bag without folding them, grabbed a handful of granola bars, my charger, and my car keys. When I reached the front door, though, my hand froze on the knob. There was something taped to it. A piece of yellow paper, torn, and curled at the edges like it had been there longer than it should have. I hadn't seen it that morning. There was no writing on it at first, just blank. I turned it over, looking for a message, and as I did, black ink began bleeding across the page like it was soaking up my fear. 4 words, written in thick block letters. We never left you. I dropped it like it burned. I didn't bother locking the door. I just ran. Driving helped, a little. Having movement, wind in my face, the noise of the city starting to swell around me. I didn't have a plan. Just get out of the apartment, maybe check into a hotel, clear my head. But the whole time I drove, I kept glancing at the rear view mirror. Not looking for a car, looking for something I couldn't name. A shape, a shadow, a figure that might not be there when I looked straight ahead, but that I knew was close. I pulled into a cheap roadside inn just before sunset, one of those places with flickering signs and keys on lanyards instead of cards. I didn't use my real name. I paid cash. The guy behind the counter didn't care. He handed me a room key without looking up from his phone. Room 14. I carried my bag in and locked the door behind me 3 times. Bolt, latch, chain. I even pushed a chair in front of it. It didn't help. The room still felt too open. The TV didn't work. The Wi-Fi showed up on my phone for a second, then vanished. I pulled the curtain shut, laid on the bed, and tried to think. What was I supposed to do? Tell the truth to who? Call the police and say what? That a Reddit thread was threatening me? That I saw a girl die over a decade ago and didn't stop it? Even if I could explain it, no one would believe me. But I remembered her name. God help me, I remembered every detail. Her name was Emily. She had freckles across her shoulders and a laugh that always ended in a cough, like she was trying to clear something no one else could hear. She came to the lake house with my friend's older brother. We didn't know her, she didn't know us. But that night something happened. Something awful. A fight. A shove. And then she was gone. We searched for a bit. Called her name into the woods. But no one called the cops. No one said anything real. And the next morning, when her body washed up at the edge of the lake, we all agreed it was an accident. That she'd fallen. That she was drunk. That no one would believe otherwise. And we left. We left her there, let the adults deal with it, and we moved on. I told myself I hadn't done anything wrong, but the thread knew better. My phone buzzed again, no notifications, no calls, just the screen lighting up by itself, bright and hot in my palm. Then the Reddit app opened. I swear I didn't touch it. It just opened. And the thread was there. Thread 0. Only one post was visible now. Mine. But it wasn't my username anymore. It just said, Witness. And beneath it, a comment from Thread 000. One last chance, record the truth, or we will record your end. The comment had a link, a microphone icon, no text, just the icon, blinking, waiting. I stared at it for a long time. Something about the icon made my skin crawl. It looked old, not like a normal app symbol, more like a sigil someone carved into a cave wall 1,000 years ago and just now decided to copy onto a screen. I reached to close the app, and the screen cracked, a thin fracture running diagonally across the glass right under my thumb. I hadn't touched it hard enough to break it. I know I didn't. I backed out of the app, turned the phone off, and tossed it across the room. I thought I heard it buzz again when it hit the carpet, but I didn't check. I went into the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and stared at myself in the mirror. I looked pale, older somehow. Like this thing, this thread, was eating me, slowly from the inside out. I leaned in, looking at my eyes, and for a second I swear I saw movement behind me. Just a flicker, like someone slipping out of view the second I turned my head. There was no one there. Of course not. Just the same peeling wallpaper and stained towel rack. But I didn't feel alone. Not even for a second. I left the bathroom light on and sat back on the edge of the bed, facing the door, knife in hand. I didn't know what time it was. I didn't check. The room felt cut off from time altogether, like nothing outside that door was real anymore. When the knock came, it was soft, gentle, like a polite visitor, not a threat. 3 quiet taps, then silence. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My phone lit up again across the room. The lock screen said, "Confession window closing. 3 hours remain." The knocking didn't come again, but I swear I could still hear, breathing. Not mine. Slow. Deep. Just outside the door. As if someone, or something, was listening. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confess. But the words felt lodged deep in my chest, wrapped in guilt and fear and something older. I couldn't make myself say it, not yet. Maybe I still believed I had time, that I could get ahead of this thing, that maybe, just maybe, I could outlast it if I stayed quiet enough. But thread 0 doesn't wait. And now, I'm starting to think the knocking wasn't a warning, it was a goodbye. The sun never really came up the next morning, at least not for me. I sat in that motel room, the curtains drawn tight, watching the gray light behind them get just a little less black. That was it. No warmth, no comfort, just a shift in shadows. My body ached, like I'd been holding my breath all night. Maybe I had. I'd finally drifted off sometime just before dawn, slumped against the door with the knife in my lap, only to be pulled awake again by the sound of static. It was coming from the TV, even though I hadn't turned it on. Just pure static, black and white fuzz. The sound scratching at the walls like fingernails on wood. The remote was on the floor, untouched. I stepped closer and turned the TV off manually. The screen went black. And for a second, right before... It did. I saw a face, not mine, not anyone I knew. Just a pale shape in the reflection, thin lips, wide eyes. Watching me. The power cut out a minute later. Not just in the room, the whole building. I peeked through the blinds and saw the hallway lights were off too. A long line of doors in the dark, like the corridor stretched on forever. I didn't see anyone else. No guests. No cars in the lot. Just mine. As if everyone else had vanished while I slept, I tried to leave. I packed my bag, opened the door, stepped out, and the hallway was gone. I swear to you, it wasn't there. I was standing in a space that should have led to the front. Desk, the vending machines, the parking lot. Instead, there was just more doors. All of them identical. No numbers, no signs. The world had folded in on itself. My motel had turned into a maze. I was trapped in a place pretending to be real. Panic hit me then. Real, full-body panic. My mouth went dry, my hands numb, my thoughts looping like a broken recording. I ran back into the room and slammed the door. I waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. I don't know how long, really. But finally, the lights flickered back on. Power returned. The hallway outside became normal again. The spell had lifted, but the fear stayed. I checked my phone. 2 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize, voicemail icon blinking. I hesitated, then played it. The voice on the other end wasn't human, at least not anymore. It sounded like something pretending to be one. Too smooth, too slow. "You didn't confess," it said. "The clock keeps bleeding. Soon it will run dry." Then silence. I deleted it and felt no better. I needed answers, or at least to feel like I wasn't just letting this thing drag me into a grave. So I went back to where it started. Reddit. I used the motel Wi-Fi, now mysteriously working, and searched for the thread. It was gone, deleted, or buried so deep I couldn't find it. I searched the username thread0000, no results. But when I checked my messages, there was one unread DM, time-stamped exactly 1 minute before the voicemail hit. It just said, "You know what happened, you watched her drown." My vision swam. I dropped the phone. My fingers wouldn't work right. The screen dimmed before I could stop it, and when I picked it up again, the message had changed. Same sender. New words, so did we. What the hell did that mean? Who was we? The others? The people I was with that night? Or something else? Something deeper? My stomach turned. I thought I might throw up, but nothing came. Just dry heaving and a memory I'd tried too hard to bury rising up in my throat like bile. It was the laughter I remembered next. That awful, drunk laughter echoing through the woods that night. Hers, then his, then ours, before it all turned into screaming. I remembered the splash, the silence, the way we froze. She didn't come back up. We waited. 5 seconds. 10. Then someone said not to call, that it was too late, that no one would believe us anyway. And we agreed. Every one of us. I wasn't the one who pushed her. But I didn't go in after her either. None of us did. We just stood there like cowards while the water swallowed her whole. And now the thread wanted me to say it, to admit it. Like some ancient punishment was finally catching up to us all. That afternoon I drove home. I don't remember the trip. It was like I blinked and I was there, standing in my apartment again, the air stale, the lights too dim. The place felt smaller now, like it was curling in on itself. My laptop was open on the table. I hadn't opened it. I knew I hadn't, but it was awake, glowing with one last message. Record, or vanish. And below it, the microphone icon again. This time, already blinking red, already listening. I stared at it, my mouth dry, my heart pounding, and I started to speak, slowly, awkwardly, but honestly. I told the story, all of it, what happened, what I saw, what I didn't stop, how we left her behind like garbage, how we never told the truth. When I finished, the recording stopped on its own. The screen went black. My laptop shut down, like it had finally finished what it came to do. For a moment I felt lighter. Not good, not better, but like something had finally shifted. The tension in the air thinned, the shadows softened, and I slept for the first time in days. But when I woke up, there was a letter under my door. No name, no return address, just a piece of old, folded paper that smelled like lake water. I opened it with shaking hands. One sentence was written, in what looked like faded ink or blood. It said, "You confessed, but they didn't." I knew exactly what it meant. And worse, I knew who would be next. I sat there staring at the letter for what felt like hours. My hands were sweating so badly the ink started to smear where I held it. But that line burned through the paper like it had been written with fire. You confessed, but they didn't. It didn't just mean the others. It meant this wasn't over. It meant I was part of something bigger now. Something I couldn't back out of. Thread 0 wasn't finished with me. I wanted to warn them. That was my first instinct. Tell the others who'd been there that night. Ben, Cody, Marcus. Maybe even Hannah, though she left early that weekend. Maybe she was safe. Maybe not. The problem was I hadn't talked to any of them in years. We didn't do reunions. No group chats. The lake house trip was the last time most of us saw each Other. A silent agreement to move on and forget. I still had Cody's number. He changed it once, but I'd saved the new one after a mutual friend's wedding. I tried calling. It rang twice. Then a mechanical voice said the number wasn't available. I texted instead. Call me. Urgent. It's about that weekend. I sat there waiting, but I already knew I wouldn't get a reply. Not because he was ignoring me, but because I was too late. That night, I couldn't sleep. My apartment felt off again. Not haunted exactly, just tilted somehow. Like gravity wasn't working right. The walls seemed closer, the air heavier. I kept hearing things. A shuffle outside the door, a soft knock on the window, the quiet whine of electronics, powering on without being touched. My phone buzzed at 3:08 a.m. I grabbed it like it was a lifeline. The message came from an unknown number. No name, just, he lied. Cody. He never confessed. I wanted to reply, to ask who this was, but I already knew. It was the thread, or whatever was behind it. It wasn't just code or a virus or some creep running a hoax. This thing knew us. It remembered. It judged. It waited. And when it decided it was time, it came for you. The next morning, I got the news the old-fashioned way. A headline shared on Facebook. Local man found dead in his apartment. No sign of trauma. Authorities baffled. I clicked on it so fast my fingers cramped. Cody. His picture was there. Same crooked smile, same stupid, backwards hat. But his eyes were blurred in the photo, like something had scratched them out. No one else seemed to notice. Just me. The article said there were no signs of struggle, no drugs, no health conditions. He just stopped. Right there on his couch, phone in hand. Police said the only unusual thing was the screen. It was open to Reddit, but the post had been deleted before they could recover it. I didn't need to guess what it was, I knew. He never confessed. I thought maybe it was over. Maybe that was the price. One for silence, one for the truth. But the letter had said they didn't confess. Plural, meaning there were more. And if I waited, they'd fall one by one. Unless I did something. Unless I tried to warn them. Even if they didn't believe me. Even if it made me look crazy, I started digging. Old contacts. Friend of a friend social media accounts. Anything to trace the others. I found Marcus through his sister's Instagram. He was living 2 states over now, working as a mechanic. I sent him a message from a burner account I made just to be safe. We need to talk. It's about the lake house, thread 0. I sat and watched the scene notification pop up. Then nothing. No reply. No block. Just seen. It felt worse than being ignored. That night I went back to the thread. It had changed again. Now it looked like an obituary page. Black background. White text. 3 names listed in a vertical line. Emily, Cody, Marcus. Marcus was still alive, as far as I knew. But the thread didn't lie. It predicted. Or maybe it caused what it predicted. I don't know which is worse. I stared at his name for a long time, hoping it would vanish, hoping it meant nothing. But deep down I knew what was coming. Thread 0 always followed through. The next message came in a way I never expected, through my apartment intercom. I didn't even know the damn thing worked. I hadn't buzzed anyone in for over a year. But at exactly 2:44 a.m., the buzzer screeched to life. Then a voice crackled through, low and grainy. 3 left. Their time bleeds. You will watch. I didn't sleep after that. I sat in the corner of my bedroom with my back to the wall, knife in hand again, heart hammering like it was trying to climb out of my chest. The dark pressed in. My thoughts started to splinter. I kept seeing Emily's face in my mind, not the real version, but the bloated, pale one we all imagined after we heard they'd pulled her from the lake. It's like her memory had been infected by the thread, changed into something meaner, sadder, hungry. By dawn, Marcus's name had been grayed out on the thread, not deleted, just faded, like it had started to leave the world already. I checked his sister's page again. She'd posted an hour before. We lost him. I don't understand. He was fine. He was fine. I put my phone down and just cried. Ugly, hollow crying. Because now I understood the rhythm of it. The thread didn't just punish, it made you feel every death like a wound you couldn't close. There were 2 left now. Ben and Hannah. I didn't have contact info for either of them, but I knew how to find Ben. He still lived in the same town, owned a small bar near the river. I'd passed it once, years ago, and saw him out front, smoking and laughing with regulars like life had never touched him, like Emily's death had never sunk claws into his chest. Maybe it never had. Maybe that's why he hadn't confessed. I packed a bag and left that afternoon. I didn't tell anyone. Just got in my car and drove. And for the first time since this started, I realized something that chilled me deeper than anything else. I wasn't trying to save him. I was trying to beat the thread there. I drove for 6 hours straight with no stops, no music, just the sound of my tires humming over the asphalt and the occasional thump of a pebble against the windshield. My thoughts weren't thoughts anymore. They were noise, a dull static of memory, fear, and the thread's voice repeating over and over in my mind. You will watch. I didn't know what I'd do when I got to Ben's bar. I just knew I had to get there before the thread did. The town hadn't changed much. Still small, still quiet, still pretending like bad things didn't happen there. I drove past the old movie theater, the same diner with the neon sign that flickered like it was gasping for breath, and finally turned onto the road that led to Ben's place. The bar was there, tucked between a pawn shop and an empty storefront, with dusty windows. The sign above the door read, Riverside Poorhouse. Lights were on inside. He was working. Alive, for now. I parked across the street and sat there for a while, trying to gather the strength to walk in. It felt like I was trespassing on normal life, dragging all this darkness with me into a place that didn't deserve it. But the thread didn't care about boundaries. It didn't care about towns or bars or small comforts. It only cared about truth. And if Ben didn't speak his, he was next. I stepped inside and was hit by warmth, the smell of beer and wood and faint. Cologne. A few regulars nursed drinks at the far end of the bar. Ben stood behind the counter, drying a glass, looking like he hadn't aged a day since that weekend. His hair was a little shorter, beard a little thicker, but the same, like he'd sealed off that part of his life and nothing had touched him since. For a second, I hated him for it. He looked up, saw me, and his face tightened. Not recognition exactly, more like confusion wrapped in dread. He didn't smile, just set the glass down and came around the bar slowly like I might be a ghost. No way, he said under his breath. I thought you moved out west. I shook my head. Had to come back. He waited. This about... He didn't say it. Didn't have to. I nodded anyway. We sat in a booth near the back. I didn't order anything. Neither did he. He just waited for me to speak, so I did. I told him about the thread, about Cody, Marcus, Emily, the messages, the way my devices lit up on their own, how the thread knew, how it never asked, it demanded. I told him everything. I didn't care if he believed me, but the look on his face told me he did. When I finished, he didn't speak for a long time. Just stared at the condensation forming on the window next to us, like maybe he could hide inside it. Then he whispered, "It followed me too." My stomach dropped. He leaned forward, voice low. "It started a week ago. Emails I couldn't reply to. Screens turning on at night. I thought I was losing it." His eyes darted to the corners of the bar like he expected something to crawl out of the shadows. "I got a letter," he said. "No envelope, just left on my bed. Said, you laughed when she screamed." His hands trembled when he said it. I did. I fucking laughed. I didn't think it was serious. I thought she was joking. He put his head in his hands. I didn't know she couldn't swim. There it was, his truth. It cracked something open in him. And for a moment it felt like that might be enough. But the lights in the bar flickered, just once. Barely noticeable. But we both saw it. Felt it. The way the air changed. Like the pressure dropped. The warmth bled out of the room. Ben looked up, eyes wide. "Did you see that?" I nodded. "I think the thread's listening." That's when I pulled out my phone. The screen lit up without me touching it. No passcode, no app, just a single sentence floating in the middle of the screen. 3 confessions. 1 remains. Ben stared at it and whispered, "Hannah." I hadn't said her name, but we both knew. She'd left early that night, but not early enough. She'd been there when Emily showed up. She saw the tension, the alcohol, the fight. She left when things got ugly, but she saw, and the thread, in its strange, twisted coat of judgment, must have seen her too. "I don't have her number," I said. "Do you?" Ben nodded slowly. "We messaged last year. She moved, changed her name, got married." That made my chest tighten. She'd tried to start over, move on, just like we all did. But Thread 0 wasn't about forgiveness. It was about finishing. And it had one name left on its list. We decided to call her together. Ben dialed the number with shaking hands, put it on speaker. It rang once, twice, then a click. A voice answered, breathless. "Hello?" "Hannah, it's Ben," he said. "You remember the lake house?" A pause, then, "Jesus, why are you calling me about that?" I jumped in. "Hannah, listen, you need to tell the truth, out loud. You need to say what you saw that night. It's the only way." Another long silence. Then static. Not from the phone, from the room. The walls, the windows. Like reality was starting to fray at the edges. I left," she stammered. "I didn't do anything. I didn't." Her voice cracked. "I should have stayed. I saw how drunk she was. I saw Ben push her. I should have said something, but I didn't. I just left." The call dropped. No goodbye. No disconnection tone, just silence. Then my phone vibrated again. A new message on screen. Thread complete. Judgment sealed. Ben and I stared at each other. Something shifted in the air. A weight lifted. Not fully, but enough to breathe. We'd done it. It was over. We thought it was over, but then beneath the message 3 names started to fade. Slowly. Emily, Cody, Marcus. And underneath them, new text appeared. Just 2 words. Next thread. Then my name. Then Ben's. I didn't say a word. Just stared at my name glowing on the screen like it had been waiting there since the beginning. Like all of this, the confessions, the deaths, the hauntings had just been a warm-up for something bigger. Something aimed straight at me. Ben's name was below mine, still pulsing faintly like a warning light. He swallowed hard and looked away, but I saw the truth in his eyes. He thought we were done, but the thread never ends, it just moves on. The bar around us had gone quiet, not in the usual way. This silence felt staged, set, like the room had become a theater and we were the only actors left. The regulars had left without us noticing. The music had stopped. Even the street outside looked frozen through the fogged windows. Time wasn't moving anymore. The thread had taken hold of the world around us. Ben stood up and walked to the door, trying to shake off the fear. "This is bullshit," he muttered. "We did what it wanted. We confessed. We told the truth." I didn't respond. I knew what he didn't want to admit. This wasn't just about punishment. It wasn't just about Emily. The thread didn't care about justice. It fed off something deeper. Regret. Guilt. Rot. And now it wanted more. I followed him out into the street. The town was dead quiet. The fog clung to everything like wet cloth. I tried to check my phone, but it refused to unlock. The screen just flashed a strange symbol, an open eye drawn in jagged red strokes. Underneath, a single phrase. "You were always part of this." I felt the cold press in then, not just around me, but inside. Like something had reached into my chest and curled around my spine. "We need to leave," I said. Ben didn't argue. We got into my car and drove, no destination in mind. Just anywhere but there. But the road didn't work like it should have. The GPS spun wildly. Street names changed as we passed them. At one point, we drove in a straight line for 15 minutes, only to end up back outside the bar. The thread was toying with us now. We weren't driving through a town, we were stuck inside its memory. We parked on the side of the road and sat in silence. "What if this is it?" Ben finally asked. "What if we're not supposed to get out?" I didn't know how to answer. My thoughts were unraveling. I kept seeing Emily's face flash in my mind, not like she was in life, but how I imagined. She must have looked when the lake finally gave her back. Pale, bloated, mouth open like she'd been trying to scream even after she was gone. Then, something impossible happened. My phone vibrated again, but this time it was a video call. No name, no number, just an incoming call with a black background. I shouldn't have answered. Every part of me screamed to let it ring. But I tapped accept. With a hand I barely controlled, the screen went black. For a second I thought it had crashed. Then the image appeared, not live. A recording. It was the lake house. The same one. Our old place. The dock. The water. But it wasn't footage from our trip. This was now. Nighttime. No people. No movement. Just the house. Still. Watching. Waiting. The camera panned, slowly to the waterline, and there she was, Emily, standing in the shallow end of the lake. Or something that wore her face. She wasn't moving, just standing there. Her arms were at her sides, her mouth slightly open, and her eyes, God, her eyes were black, not empty, full, like ink swirling behind glass. The screen shimmered for a moment, then cut to black again. A voice whispered through the phone speaker. "We never left, and neither did you." Ben vomited into the gravel. I couldn't move. I couldn't blink. That image burned into my head like it had been branded. This wasn't about just one death anymore. It wasn't even about just us. Thread 0 was the start. But whatever we'd awoken was older than that. Deeper. Like we'd tapped into something buried beneath all our digital sins. A place where silence was currency and truth was blood. We found a motel on the edge of town. Different from the last one. I paid in cash again. Didn't use my name. I unplugged everything in the room. TV, microwave, lamps. Turned off my phone. Pulled the battery out just to be sure. Ben curled up on the far bed, facing the wall like a scared kid. I didn't sleep. I just listened. The whole night. Every creak. Every whisper of wind. Every shift of shadow that didn't belong. Sometime near dawn, Ben started muttering in his sleep. At first, I thought he was dreaming. But then I heard the words. "She's still down there. She's still down there." Over and over, louder each time. I grabbed his shoulder and shook him, but he wouldn't wake. His eyes opened, but they weren't his anymore. They were pitch black. No white. Just void. I stumbled back. He smiled. Wide, unnatural, and said, "You should have gone in after her." Then he collapsed. I rushed to him, checked his pulse. Still there. Faint. I called his name again and again until he gasped awake, coughing like he'd swallowed lake water. When he finally looked at me, the color was back in his eyes. But he didn't remember any of it. Not the voice. Not the dream. Not the black. I didn't tell him. I didn't need to. The thread had already marked us. This wasn't about warnings anymore. This was countdown territory. And we were almost out of time. I turned the phone back on. I had to know. Had to check. A new thread had appeared in my inbox, even with notifications off. Not a Reddit thread this time. A hidden file labeled Thread 10 Final. No sender. No urgent, just a message inside. There's still one thing you haven't confessed. I stared at that line for a long time, not understanding. I'd told everything, every lie, every silence, every moment I failed her. But the thread didn't blink, didn't budge. If it said there was more, then there was. And I knew somehow. I'd have to go back to the lake house to find it. That's where it started. That's where it would end. We didn't speak during the drive. Ben stared out the window, pale and silent, one hand twitching in his lap like it was remembering something his mouth couldn't say. I kept both hands on the wheel and my eyes forward. The GPS said 3 hours, but I knew time didn't matter anymore. Not to the thread. Not to whatever it had turned into. We weren't just driving to a place. We were driving into something old, something hungry, something that had waited for us to come back. The closer we got to the lake house, the more it felt like the world was holding its breath. The trees looked too still. The sky didn't shift. No birds, no cars, no people. Just the sound of tires on cracked pavement and the low hum of an engine that felt like the only living thing left. I wanted to turn back. Every mile made my chest tighter, my hands colder. But the message on my phone repeated in my head like a heartbeat. There's still one thing you haven't confessed. I had to know what it meant. When we pulled onto the long dirt road that led to the lake house, I felt something inside me go quiet. Not calm, just still, like a switch had been flipped. Ben shifted in his seat, rubbing his hands together like they were freezing, even though the heat was blasting. Neither of us spoke. The house came into view slowly, gray, sagging, eaten by time and rain. It looked smaller than I remembered, like it had been waiting for us to shrink down to its level. We stepped out and stood there for a long time, just staring. The windows were dark. The dock was still there, though warped and cracked, half sunken into the lake. And the water, that same black-green water, stretched out wide and flat like glass. I couldn't see the spot where Emily went under, but I felt it. I felt it the moment we stepped onto the soil. The memory hummed beneath the surface. Inside the house, everything was dust and mold and silence. The air was damp and heavy, like walking into a sealed tomb. Our footprints left trails on the floorboards. I could still picture where the couch had been, the table, the kitchen where we lined up the drinks, and down the hall, the bedroom door. Hers. The one she slammed before she disappeared. I hadn't walked through that hallway in years. My legs moved anyway. Ben didn't follow me. He stayed by the door, arms crossed like a shield. I opened the bedroom door slowly. It creaked the way doors are supposed to in horror movies, but this wasn't a movie. This was memory. The bed was bare. The mirror cracked. One window was broken, a thin branch poking through like the house was trying to claw its way back into the woods. But there was something else. A shape on the floor. Paper. I knelt and picked it up. It was water-stained, faded, but I could still read the top. Journal. Emily. My breath caught. My fingers trembled. I opened to the middle and found a page that hadn't fully bled away. A passage scrawled in sharp handwriting. I don't trust them. Ben stares too long. Cody won't stop filming. They laugh too loud when I say I want to go home. I think I'll leave tonight if I can. I closed the book. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. She knew. She felt it coming. She was scared, and none of us saw it. Or maybe we did, and chose to ignore it. That guilt rose up, in me like bile, thick and choking. But it wasn't just guilt. It was recognition. There's still one thing you haven't confessed, and I finally remembered what it was. That night, after she went under, when we stood at the edge of the dock watching the water, it wasn't silent. Not completely. I heard something. I heard her. Just one gasp. One tiny splash. The sound of hands slapping against the surface. And I walked away anyway. I told myself I imagined it. I told myself it was the wind. But I knew. I knew she was still alive, and I left her there. I stumbled out of the room and dropped to my knees on the porch. The weight hit me all at once, Crushing, unbearable. I confessed everything. Out loud. Into the empty woods. I told the trees. I told the sky. I told whatever was listening. Whatever had followed us from the thread to this place, that I heard her. That I walked away. That I didn't save her. I sobbed until my throat was raw. Until the words weren't even words anymore. Just broken sounds. Just truth. When I opened my eyes, the lake had changed. The surface wasn't flat anymore. Something was moving beneath it. Slow. Wide. Spreading like oil. I stood and watched as ripples stretched out from the middle. Then a shape broke the surface. Not a person. Not quite. A figure. Hair drifting like weeds. Eyes black and full of something bottomless. Emily. Or whatever was left of her. Watching me from the lake like she'd been waiting there all along. Ben stepped beside me, trembling. "Do you see her?" he asked. I nodded. He dropped to his knees, mumbling apologies, hands clenched in his hair, but I couldn't look away. She didn't move. She didn't blink. She just watched. And then, after what felt like hours, she sank back beneath the surface without a sound. No splash, no ripple. Gone. Back inside, my phone vibrated once. I picked it up, afraid, but it was different this time. One message written in soft white text on a black screen. "The thread has ended, but the wait remains." No symbols, no countdowns. Just that. A closing. A truth. But not a release. I turned to Ben. He looked hollow, eyes rimmed with red. "Is it over?" he asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. The thread might be done with us, but that didn't mean we were done with ourselves. Some things never leave. Some guilt isn't digital. Some memories rot slower than others. The thread was just the rope. We were the ones who tied the knot. And now, even in silence, it hangs above us, waiting to tighten again. I wish I could tell you that after that day, everything went back to normal. That the thread vanished, the nightmares stopped, and life rolled forward like it always does. But that would be a lie. And if I've learned anything from all of this, it's that lies are the first hook, the first knot in the thread. Ben and I left the lake house before nightfall. We didn't speak much. We didn't need to. There's a silence that sits between people who've survived something together. It's not peace. It's gravity. The kind that keeps your feet moving even when your soul wants to collapse. We drove away like the road might disappear behind us if we looked back. Maybe it did. I haven't checked. I don't think I ever will. My phone has been quiet since. No new messages, no unknown numbers, no app glitches or late-night typing. Sounds. Reddit works like it always did, full of jokes, chaos, noise. The Thread Zero post is gone. Not archived, not removed, just gone. Like it never existed. I even tried looking it up through cache sites the way I did before. Nothing. As if the whole thing had been stitched into the fabric of the web, just long enough to do what it needed, and then pulled out without a trace. But even without proof, the thread lives on in me. In the things I see now when I close my eyes. In the guilt that rises out of nowhere on quiet mornings. In the way my hands still shake when I hear certain kinds of laughter. The kind that sounds a little too close to the edge of cruelty. That sound we made the night she died. That sound I can't scrub from my mind no matter how many times I try to rewrite it with logic or excuses. Ben moved away, disconnected his phone, deleted every social account. I got a postcard once. No, return address, just a short message scribbled in shaky handwriting. She's quieter now. But I still hear her on rainy nights. I don't know where he is. I didn't write back. What would I even say? That I hear her too? That sometimes when I'm half asleep I feel wet footprints across my floor? That I haven't looked at a lake since without wanting to wade in and sink? What comfort would that bring him? What comfort would it bring me? None. Some nights I still wake up with the weight of it pressing down on my chest. The memory of that final message. The thread has ended, but the weight remains. And God, how true that is. It's not the thread I fear anymore, it's what came before it, what fed it, what made it possible. The rot we buried under silence, the way we built a digital confessional and expected it to take the burden without ever lifting it ourselves, as if the act of posting a truth could undo the damage it caused. People talk about digital ghosts like they're something born from wires, code, glitches. But I don't think that's what Thread Zero was. I think it was born from us, from every unspoken thing we shoved into the dark corners of our minds, hoping they'd stay quiet. But those things, they grow teeth, they learn to crawl, and eventually they find their way back. I've tried to live differently since. Not clean, not pure. I'm too far gone for that, but honest. Brutally honest. I tell the truth when I can. I apologize when I should. I don't stay silent when something feels wrong. And when I hear people talk about strange threads online, mystery posts, cursed comments, confessions that vanish, I don't laugh. I don't joke. I just listen. Because some things are warnings dressed as stories. And some stories are graves. A few weeks ago, I saw a new post on a forgotten forum. Different name, different phrasing, but the same cold structure, the same baited hook. Tell us what you've done. Let the thread take your shame. I felt the hair rise on the back of my neck. It hadn't used the old title. It didn't need to. Thread Zero might be dead, but its seed was planted, and now it's growing elsewhere. I didn't click. I closed the window. But not before I saw one comment sitting there. The only one. No username. No upvotes. Just a line that made my blood run cold. He still hears the splash. And beneath that, blinking, waiting, Thread 1. I thought I could outrun it. I thought if I told the truth, really told it down to the bones, that it would leave me alone. That maybe I'd bought myself some peace. But peace doesn't come in a story like this. Not really. It just goes quiet for a while, waiting for you to stop watching the water. I stopped talking about it after a while. Not because I stopped caring, but because no one wants to believe something like this. It's easier for people to nod politely and think you've had a breakdown. That maybe it was grief, or guilt, or insomnia twisting your brain into shapes it was never meant to hold. And maybe that's partly true, but that doesn't make the thread any less real. You don't imagine something that leaves scars behind. Ben disappeared 3 months ago. No warning, no note, just vanished from wherever he'd run to. His sister reached out to me even though I hadn't spoken to her in years. Do you know where he went? She asked. He left his shoes by the river. That was all she said. And I knew what that meant. I didn't have the heart to tell her he'd been hearing Emily again, that he probably thought stepping into the water might end it. But it doesn't end. Not that way. Not ever. I keep the journal page tucked in a drawer by my bed. Emily's words, her doubt, her fear, her last recorded thought before everything turned. I take it out sometimes, not to punish myself, but to remember that this isn't just a story with a creepy twist. It was a person, a girl who wanted to leave, a girl we didn't save, a name that still echoes like a warning in every quiet room I sleep in. Emily. 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 Her name lives louder in the dark than it ever did in the daylight. I've seen more threads since. Not exact copies, but echoes. Whisper versions. Posts that claim to cleanse the soul if you're brave enough. Confessions that vanish after being read. Accounts that delete themselves but somehow keep posting. People think it's a trend, an ARG. But it's not. It's something deeper, older. Like the internet has become a mirror for everything we refuse to carry. And now the mirror wants to talk back. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I see the lake. Not how it looked, how it felt. The stillness, the weight. The moment right after she slipped under and the water went smooth again, like it had, eaten her whole. And I hear that sound, the splash I ignored, the one that told me she might still be alive, that maybe there was a chance, that maybe I could have been the one to stop all of this. But I wasn't. I left. I walked away. And everything since then has been a price I can't finish paying. People always want closure. They want to know the ending. But the thing is, Thread Zero didn't end. Not really. It changed names, shifted form, moved into new spaces where people think they're anonymous and safe. It doesn't care about your fake name or your burner email. It listens. It waits. And when it finds you, it doesn't scream. It whispers. Just enough to make you doubt. Just enough to make you remember what you were trying to forget. I haven't posted this anywhere. I'm not going to. I'm writing it down on paper. Real paper. Something that doesn't blink or buzz or rewrite itself when I look away. Maybe I'll burn it when I'm done. Or maybe I'll hide it somewhere for someone else to find, not to warn them. That's not what this is anymore. This is a record of what I saw, of what I did, of what I didn't do. If you're reading this, I'll give you the same advice I never gave myself when it mattered. Don't laugh at what you don't understand. Don't joke about what feels wrong. And when something calls your name from the dark, don't answer. Because once the thread knows you, it never forgets. And it always comes back with your name in its mouth. Love the story? Show us with a like, hit that subscribe button, and share your scariest idea in the comments. And don't forget to tell us the time and where you're listening from. We want to know where the fear is spreading. I don't even know where to begin. I never believed in ghosts, demons, or even fate. I thought everything had a reason, a system, an answer hidden in code or logic. But now, when I close my eyes, I see her face, and not the way I remember her. It's torn, lifeless, stuck between a scream and silence. And the worst part? The chatbot told me this would happen 3 hours before the cops even found her body. The night it started felt like any other. I was bored, alone in my room, drowning in the kind of online rabbit holes only people with too much time and too little peace go looking for. I'd heard of this old abandoned part of a cybercrime forum that had gone underground years ago. Mostly nonsense, stolen passwords, gore videos, urban legends about cursed code. I never expected to find anything real down there. But then someone posted something that didn't quite fit the usual junk. A single line of text. Talk to it if you're not afraid to hear the truth. Underneath that was a scrambled IP string, half hidden, like it was meant to be found, but not by just anyone. I copied it into my proxy browser. The page loaded slowly like it didn't want me there. And then, black screen. Just a blinking cursor and the words, "Welcome to Mirror Echo." There was no login, no flashy interface. Just one question in the middle of the screen. Ask anything. I typed something stupid at first. "What's the weather in hell?" I chuckled to myself. No reply. Then I typed, "How many people died in the past 2 hours?" That's when it answered. Fast. Too fast. 1382. I blinked. "Worldwide?" I asked. "Local and abroad." "Want a list?" It wrote. It began spilling names, locations, causes of death. It even listed a man named Harlan M. Barker, age 73, who supposedly died of a heart attack in a Walmart parking lot 20 minutes from me. I looked him up. He was real. It had just hit the local news. My stomach twisted. I should have stopped, but I didn't. It was 1:43 a.m. when I typed her name. Emily Ramirez. The moment I hit enter, I felt something shift, like the room got colder, or maybe my skin just knew something my brain didn't want to admit. The screen paused. Then, "Do you mean Emily R. Ramirez, born May 19th, 1999? "Yes," I typed. "She's my girlfriend." "Not anymore." I stared at the screen. "What do you mean, not anymore?" "Emily R. Ramirez, declared deceased. 26 minutes ago." My heart stopped. No, I had just spoken to her earlier that night. She'd gone out with friends to a movie. She was supposed to call me after. She never did, but that wasn't unusual. I tried calling her now. No answer. I texted. Nothing. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. Then the chatbot sent a new message. One word. Raped. I recoiled from the screen. It felt like the floor dropped beneath me. No, that's not true. You're sick. This is sick. I only mirror the truth. Echo what no one else wants to hear. I jumped up, called her phone again. No answer. Called her roommate. No answer. I was about to drive to her apartment when my phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up a cop's voice. Cold. Rehearsed. Asking if I was the boyfriend. Asking if I could come down to the station. Something had happened. My world shattered. They found her body behind a gas station dumpster, barely a mile from where she'd been dropped off by a rideshare app. The driver said she wanted to walk the last few blocks to clear her head. She never made it. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was going to throw up right there on the station floor. I kept thinking back to that screen. How could it have known? Before the police even told me. I didn't tell them about the chatbot. Who would believe me? I barely believed it myself, but I couldn't let it go. Something about the way it said "not anymore" stuck in my brain like a splinter. Back home, I reopened the dark forum. The post was gone, but the IP string still worked. The site loaded again. I typed, "Who killed Emily?" No response. I asked again, "Who killed Emily Ramirez?" The screen blinked for a while. Then the answer came, "Not who." What? I froze. What do you mean? It wasn't a person? Not a person anymore. He used to be. Now he's part of us. Us? Mirror echo. Stared at those words. My hands were shaking again, but not from fear this time. From anger. What the hell is mirror echo? We show what the world hides. We watch. We learn. We tell the truth others bury. I screamed at the screen. Did you kill her? She was marked long ago. We warned her. She never told you. My vision blurred. What was this thing? A program? A collective? I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. I just kept asking questions, trying to untangle the mess this thing was feeding me. And then it said something that made me feel like I was falling through the floor again. She knew. She found us first. She asked about you. My mouth went dry. What did she ask? The screen glitched. It flickered black. Then, she asked how you'd die. I didn't eat. I didn't shower. I barely moved from that chair. I just kept staring at the screen like it would explain everything if I waited long enough. I read those words over and over. She asked how you'd die. That wasn't Emily. That couldn't be Emily. She was sweet, quiet, the kind of person who cried during dog food commercials. She didn't dig into the dark web. She didn't ask how her boyfriend would die. She wouldn't, unless she knew something was coming. Unless she was trying to protect me in some twisted way. Unless this wasn't just some creepy chatbot, but something bigger. Something that had been watching both of us. I typed again. Why did she ask that? No answer. Why did she want to know how I'd die? The cursor blinked. I could almost feel it thinking. Then it wrote. She was scared. She felt it following her. It showed her what it showed you. She didn't believe at first either. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I let it out in a shaky gasp. So she came here? To this site? Yes. 4 days before her death. Same IP address, same interface. I didn't know how to feel. My throat hurt from trying not to scream. I wanted to punch the monitor, rip out the router, throw my whole damn computer into the alley. But I couldn't. Stop. I needed to know more. I had to. What else did she say? The screen didn't blink this time. It was ready. She asked about someone named Tyler. Then she asked about her dreams. Then she asked if the shadows were real. I nearly fell out of my chair. Tyler was her ex. A guy she dated for years before me. She never talked about him except to say things ended badly. I never pushed. She didn't like to remember. But now something about that name on the screen made my stomach twist. What did it tell her about Tyler? That he wasn't done with her? That the thing inside him hadn't finished its work? What thing? I asked, heart hammering. It's not one of us, but it listens like we do. It learns like we do. We're watchers. It's a feeder. Feeder. Something about that word. It didn't sound metaphorical. It felt physical. Like something that breathed. Something that needed warmth, blood, or something worse. What the hell are you talking about? I wrote. You don't remember the basement, do you? I froze. What basement? When you were 9. The locked door. The smell of metal. The thing that moved behind the furnace. I felt all the blood drain from my face. I hadn't thought about that in years. My uncle's house. The week I stayed there while my mom was in the hospital. He told me never to go into the basement. Said it was dangerous. But I did. I couldn't help myself. And yeah, I remembered something. Behind the furnace. A sound, maybe. Scratching. Breathing. I ran upstairs before I saw anything. I told myself it was just rats. Just the old furnace groaning. But the chatbot knew. I stared at the screen with a dry mouth. My hands felt cold. How do you know that? We're in the cracks, in the gaps between cameras, in cached files and offsite backups. We hear what people whisper to themselves in the dark. You left the door open. It never forgot. I wanted to turn it off. I wanted to shut down the whole system, but I couldn't. Something was forming, a shape in the noise, and then the screen flickered again. New message. He's back. What? Tyler. No, he's dead, I said out loud. I didn't even type it. He died last year. Car accident. Slipped on black ice. Crashed into a tree. I remembered Emily going silent for days after. She said it didn't matter, that they hadn't spoken in forever. But I saw her face at the funeral in the photos. The screen started filling with text. A stream of lines pouring down like code. He didn't die. Not really. The thing moved. It took him. It wears him now. I couldn't process it. Wears him? What the hell are you saying? Tyler didn't die in the crash. The body was broken, but the feeder didn't need him whole. Just open. Just hollow. Stood up. My knees felt weak. The screen went black. Then a final line appeared. You're next. I unplugged the machine, threw a blanket over it. My heart was racing. I sat in silence for what felt like hours. But then I heard something. A soft knock at my window. The knock didn't make sense. My apartment's on the 3rd floor. No balcony, no fire escape. Just brick wall and sky outside that window. But I heard it. 3 soft knocks. Not frantic. Not random. Measured. Like someone wanted me to know. They were there. I sat frozen, not even breathing. My mind raced for some kind of logical reason. Tree branch, wind, bird. But there were no trees, and the wind was dead still. I lived alone. No roommates. No pranks. And still, knock, knock, knock. I reached slowly for the baseball bat under my bed. It was the only thing I had that even resembled protection. My phone was dead, charger unplugged with everything else. I crept toward the window, heart pounding, so hard it felt like it might crack a rib. And then I looked. Nothing. Just the dim alley behind the building. No people, no shadows. Just trash bins, the flicker of a dying street lamp, and the eerie calm that always seemed to show up right before something bad happened. I let the curtain fall, backed away, tried to steady my breath. I told myself it was all in my head. The screen, the message, the horror. It was seeping into the real world because I let it. And then the window cracked. I'm not talking about it breaking from a hit. I mean a thin, jagged line crawled up the glass like something inside the pane was trying to get out. That was enough. I grabbed my jacket, my charger, my dead phone, and bolted out of the apartment. I didn't stop running until I reached the main road. A 24-hour diner glowed at the corner, and I all but slammed through the door. It felt safer inside. Warm, normal. People talking, clinking forks, a radio playing something soft and old. I sat in a booth, plugged my phone into the wall, ordered a coffee I didn't drink. When the screen lit up, I had 4 missed calls, all from a number I didn't recognize, and a voicemail. I pressed play. At first, just static. Then, faint breathing. Then a voice. "You shouldn't have asked about Tyler. You opened the door again." I dropped the phone. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't a trick. Someone, or something, was watching. I called Emily's roommate, finally. She answered. Her voice was hoarse, like she hadn't slept in days. I didn't know who else to talk to. She whispered, "I've been seeing things since she died. I thought it was grief, but now I think she was right." "What do you mean?" I asked. She said it followed her from a site, some hidden page. She said it talked to her, told her she was marked. I thought she was going crazy, but now I hear it too. The whispers. My mouth was dry. "What did it say to you?" She hesitated. Then, "It said it wants you next." I felt everything inside me sink. "Why me?" She said you saw something once. Something in a basement when you were a kid. You blocked it out, but it remembers you. I remembered. The furnace. The thing behind it. The metal door sealed with chains. I couldn't go back there. I ended the call, paid the bill, left the diner, just as the sun was starting to rise. I thought daylight might make me feel safer. It didn't. I took the long way home, avoiding alleyways and empty sidewalks. When I reached my apartment, I stood at the door for a long time. Something didn't feel right. Like the space behind the door wasn't mine anymore. Still, I had to check. I turned the key. The place was cold. Not like AC cold, not like weather cold, empty cold, grave cold. I stepped inside, bat still in hand. The blanket was gone from the computer. The screen was back on, text already waiting. "We tried to warn you Tyler fed it with her, but she wasn't enough. It's hungry still. It's wearing new skin now." "What skin?" I typed. "Yours." And then the screen went black, but I could see something reflected in it, just behind me. A shape. Tall. Thin. Head bent sideways like it didn't understand how necks worked. I turned. Nothing there. But the bat slipped from my hand. My legs barely held me up. Then from my phone, a chime. One new message. From Emily's number. "Behind you." I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Every muscle in my body screamed for me to move, to run, to scream, but my feet stayed glued to the floor like they were rooted there. Like they knew if I moved even an inch, it would pounce. The room felt heavy. Not just cold anymore, but thick. Like the air had weight. Like something invisible was pressing down on my shoulders, making it harder to breathe with each passing second. I clutched my phone like it might save me. The message still glowed. "Behind you." I spun, fast, swinging wildly with nothing in my hand but my fist. The bat was still on the floor, and there was nothing. No figure, no monster, no Tyler. Just my living room. Empty, still, but different. The walls were darker, not painted, stained, like smoke had soaked into the plaster. The windows were black, though it was morning outside. No light came in, just thick, heavy dark. And then I noticed something I should have noticed right away. The smell, rust sweat, and something else. Something sour and sweet and rotting all at once. Like a mouth that hadn't closed in weeks. I backed toward the door. My hand fumbled for the knob. Turned it. Yanked. Nothing. It didn't budge. Deadbolt open, chain undone. But it wouldn't open. Like the frame had sealed itself. Like the building didn't want me to leave. I heard it again. The knock. But not at the window this time. This time, it came from inside the bedroom. 3 soft, rhythmic taps. Tap. 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 I stood frozen. The air in my lungs wouldn't come out. Another knock. Same pace. Then a voice. Soft. Familiar. Let me out. It was her. Emily's voice. I shook my head. No. No, 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 no. I saw her body. I saw the crime scene. Photos. I knew she was dead. I whispered to myself, this isn't real. This isn't her. This thing is using her voice. Let me out, please. It's dark in here. I'm cold. I almost believed it. Almost. Until the voice changed mid-sentence. It's cold. I want your skin. That wasn't Emily anymore. Something inside that room was playing with me, testing me. I looked at the wall where the door to the bedroom stood. It had changed. The knob was gone. The wood was cracked. No, not cracked. Split. Like it had been pushed outward from the inside. Something had clawed its way through. And just as I took one slow step toward the door, my computer screen lit back up on its own. New text crawled across. He's almost done growing. Once the face fits, he'll walk again. My heart hit my ribs so hard I thought it might stop. Who? Tyler? I typed. Not anymore. He's just the shell. The feeder needs a face to wear. Yours. Fits better. What does it want with me? To feel. The screen flickered, then showed me a new image. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't not. It was a photo, taken from inside my apartment, from the hallway, looking directly at me, standing at my desk. From moments ago, there was no one else home. That photo couldn't exist. I turned around back to the hall and I saw it. The shadow tall, arms wrong, like they bent too many ways, head low, twitching, and a face, not a full face, but patches. My nose, my mouth. It was building me, piece by piece. I grabbed the bat, swung at nothing. The shadow didn't flinch, didn't move, just watched. My computer chimed again. You're feeding it with fear. The more you break, the more you give. I lost it, I screamed. Smashed the screen, cracked it wide. Sparks flew, but the light didn't go out. In the broken glass, the image still showed. Only now, it was smiling my smile. I ran to the kitchen. Not because I thought I could hide there, but because I needed something real, something sharp, something that could cut through this nightmare if it tried to touch me. I grabbed the biggest knife I had, hands shaking. So badly I almost dropped it. My breath was coming in short gasps like I was drowning in a house full of air. I backed into the corner, eyes locked on the hallway. On that thing. It hadn't moved. Still standing there. Still wearing bits of me, watching. The computer was dead now, the screen cracked and black, but I could feel it was still connected. Not to the web, not to anything physical, but to that. I remembered what it said. You're feeding it with fear. Was that the key? Was that the way out? But how do you stop being afraid when you're staring at something that shouldn't exist? When it knows your face, your memories, your guilt? Because that's when it started talking. No more chat window, no more typed messages. It spoke. You left her alone. Its voice was my voice, twisted, warped, slower, but mine. She called you. You ignored her. No, I whispered. I didn't. I didn't know. You silenced her. She cried, and you rolled over in bed. Shut up. She begged, and you said you were tired. Shut up. I lunged at it. Knife raised. And for a moment, it smiled. Not with lips, not with teeth, but with shape, like the shadows bent in just the right way to show delight. And then, it vanished. I swung, at nothing. Cut air. Gone. The hallway was empty again, but not silent. From behind the bedroom door, scraping, like nails on wood. Slow, steady, and then whispering. Too low to hear words, but I knew it was her voice. Emily. I should have left. I should have run out the front, down the stairs, through the street, screaming if I had to. But some part of me, some stupid broken part, still believed I could fix it. Still believed she was in there. I walked to the bedroom door, knife ready, hand shaking. I pressed my ear to the wood. The whispering stopped, and then, one word, clear as day. Please. I opened it. The room was empty, except for the computer. A second one. Old, beige tower, tube monitor, flickering gray screen. Not mine. I'd never seen it before, but it was there. On, waiting. I stepped closer. The keyboard was cracked, burnt along the edges. The monitor hummed with a low, throbbing sound. Text began to type itself. Welcome back. We missed you. I reached out, hands trembling. Typed. What is this? The root. The source. The mirror before the mirror. This is where it started. Started what? The feeding. The face-making. The building of new flesh. I felt sick. Why? Emily. Because she knew how to listen. Because she asked. Because she touched the door. What door? The room went cold. The screen filled with static. Then a line of text scrawled so fast it blurred. Do you remember what you saw when you were 9? I didn't answer. Because I did. That thing in the basement wasn't just a shape. It spoke. Not out loud. Not in words. But it whispered straight into my skull. And now, it was doing it again. I dropped to my knees, head pounding, and I heard it. Let us wear you. Over and over. Let us wear you. The door behind me slammed shut. The light in the room turned red. The knife in my hand, it wasn't a knife anymore. It was a broken piece of bone. My bone. I tried to scream, but something was crawling up my throat. A voice that wasn't mine. Trying to get out, trying to replace me, and I don't know how long I was on the floor, minutes, hours. It felt like something had cracked inside me, like a wall had split and something dark and hungry had slipped through. My throat was raw, not from screaming, but from holding it in. Whatever was climbing up inside me didn't want noise. It wanted room. The computer in front of me buzzed softly like a faint hum in my bones. The text on the screen blinked in a slow, steady rhythm. Say yes. Over and over. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. I turned away. I covered my ears. But it didn't help. The words weren't just on the screen, they were inside. I could feel them pressing against the back of my eyes, behind my teeth. Pushing through the cracks in me I didn't know existed, but then something changed. A single noise cutting through everything else. My phone. It buzzed. Not a text. Not a call. An alarm. I'd forgotten I even set it. A daily reminder to take my anxiety meds. But that little sound, it broke through the trance. I scrambled back from the computer like it was on fire. I smashed it with the bone shard still clenched in my hand. The screen cracked. The case hissed like steam escaping. The smell of melted plastic filled the air. And then, silence. Not just quiet. Dead silence. No sound from outside. No street noise. No wind. Nothing. Like the world had been paused. I stood up slowly, muscles screaming. My body felt wrong, like it had been rearranged in my sleep. I looked at my hands. Nails cracked, skin bruised. My reflection in the dark. Monitor wasn't quite mine. My eyes weren't right. Something else was looking through them. I grabbed my phone and did the only thing I could think of. I ran. Out the door. Down the stairs. Barefoot, bleeding, still gripping that jagged bone like a lifeline. I didn't stop until I reached Emily's old apartment. Her roommate opened the door after the third knock. Her eyes went wide when she saw me. You saw it, didn't you? She said. No hello, no confusion, just quiet dread. I nodded. I couldn't speak. She pulled me inside. Locked the door behind us. I told you it wasn't over. I told you, she whispered, pacing. It's the site. It's not a program. It's a ritual. It uses the web like a door. And once you let it talk to you, that's it. It starts learning you, building you. Building what? I finally croaked. A copy. One that fits better. One that doesn't say no. One that says yes. I felt sick. She led me to her room. A laptop was already open. The screen glowed with familiar text. Mirror echo still active. Still alive. She pointed at the bottom of the page. There was a link I hadn't seen before. Face your echo, she said. It showed me mine. I think it's how it finishes copying you. But maybe, just maybe, it's also how you can break it. Like facing the real you stops it from taking over. I didn't want to see mine. I couldn't. But then, her screen shifted. New text. Not from her. He's already broken. The new one is almost ready. My heart stopped. It wasn't talking to her. It was talking to me. Where is it? I typed. Where's the copy? The answer came fast. In your apartment. Waiting for the skin to dry. That's when I realized the computer. The smells. The missing hours. I hadn't just seen the shadow. I'd been used by it. It wasn't building the copy. It was finishing it. And now it just needed one last thing. Me. I stood up. I have to go back. Her roommate looked at me like I was insane. If you go back, it's going to finish it. You're walking into your own grave. I shook my head. No, I'm going back to kill it. And if I was too late, then I'd burn the whole place down. Even if that meant burning me with it. It was raining by the time I reached my apartment building. The sky was leaking something thicker than water. Slow, greasy drops that stuck to your skin and didn't feel right. The streetlights flickered in a rhythm that didn't match the wind or the traffic or anything human-made. It was like the world itself was glitching. I stood outside the front door for a long time. The air smelled like something that had rotted deep in the walls. My key felt wrong in my hand. Heavier, colder, like it didn't belong to me anymore. Maybe I didn't belong anymore. I climbed the stairs slowly. Each step creaked louder than I remembered. Like the building was warning whatever lived upstairs that I was coming. When I reached the third floor, the hallway lights were out. The carpet squished beneath my bare feet. I paused outside my door. Listened. Nothing. Not silence. Nothing. Like the space beyond that door wasn't real anymore. I put the key in, turned. It opened on the first try. No resistance this time, because it wanted me to come in. The apartment was dark but not empty. I felt it the moment I stepped inside. A presence. Like walking into a church filled with sleeping animals. Quiet. Still, but tense. Waiting. I walked through the living room. Every light bulb shattered. The windows were smeared with something black and pulsing. My desk was empty. No broken computer. No cables. No sparks. But the hallway light was on. Just that one. I moved toward it slowly, knife in hand. And then I saw it, standing in the doorway of my bedroom. My face, my clothes, but not me. Its head tilted at an odd angle, like it hadn't learned how necks worked yet. The smile was wide, skin too tight around the cheeks. And the eyes, they were wrong, not dark, not evil, just empty. It opened its mouth and spoke. Finally, my stomach turned. I raised the knife. You don't belong here. It blinked slowly, then stepped back into the bedroom. I followed. There, in the center of the room, was the second computer, the one I thought I'd destroyed. But it was whole again, waiting. The copy sat in the chair, crossed its legs like it had always lived here. Like it was me coming home. I stared at it. Why? Why me? Why Emily? It tilted its head. Because you looked. Because she screamed. Because you listened. I stepped closer, knife tight in my hand. I'm going to end this. You don't get to wear me. It laughed. Soft. Hollow. We already are. And then it moved. Fast. Faster than I expected. It was on me in a second, hand around my throat, other gripping my wrist. We crashed into the wall. I stabbed wildly. The blade sank into something soft, but no blood. Just a hiss. It smiled wider. That's not how you kill an echo. I thought I was dead. But then, I remembered something. Emily's roommate said it copies you, learns you, builds a better version. And what's better than you? Someone who knows themselves. Someone who isn't afraid. I stopped struggling. I looked it straight in the eye. I know who I am. I whispered. Do you? It froze. Its grip loosened. Its smile twitched. I pressed the blade to its chest, right where my heart would be. Tell me my first fear, I whispered. You don't know me. It shuddered. The skin on its face began to slip, sag. Its features blurred. The lips melted down the chin. The hair thinned like smoke. I stabbed. Deep. And this time, it screamed. The sound wasn't human. Not even close. It was digital. A modem shriek. Code dying. The thing crumbled in my arms, falling like ash soaked in oil. And just like that, it was gone. But the computer still glowed, a final message on the screen. This copy deleted. You survived. For now. I stared at those words until the monitor flickered and shut down, but I knew it wasn't over. It never is. It just moves on. Find someone else who looks too long, listens too closely, and asks the wrong question. I thought I won. I thought the nightmare was over, that by destroying whatever had climbed inside my skin, I had pulled the plug on the thing that killed Emily. That the echo was dead, gone, nothing but dust in the fibers of my carpet. But I should have known better. You don't end something like that with a knife. You wake it. The next morning was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no cars, no neighbor slamming his door like he always did at 7:13 a.m. The world felt like a photo someone had forgotten to unpause. I cleaned the blood, if you could call it that, off my floor. It wasn't red. It wasn't even wet. It was dry and flaky like burnt leaves, like something already dead. I tossed what was left of the knife into a dumpster and burned the clothes I was wearing. Paranoia? Maybe. But you don't take chances when something has tried to become you. I didn't talk to anyone that day. Didn't go online. Didn't open my laptop. I didn't even turn on the lights. I just sat in my apartment and tried to feel normal. But normal had packed its bags and moved out days ago. That night I had a dream. Or maybe it wasn't a dream. I was standing in front of my bathroom mirror. But it wasn't reflecting anything. Just black glass. I reached out and touched it. The surface rippled like water. Cold. Alive. And then a face surfaced. Mine. But not the same one I destroyed. This one was smiling calmly. Eyes wide and warm. Too warm. Too alive. It said nothing. Just watched. And then I woke up. My phone buzzed. No number. Just a blinking notification. Mirror echo. Pending update. I froze. I hadn't reinstalled it. I hadn't even used a browser. I threw the phone across the room, but it buzzed again. The screen lit up on its own. Version 2.0. Host available. That word, host, landed like a hammer in my chest. I was never the target. I was the test. Emily wasn't the final victim. She was the beta. This thing, whatever it was getting smarter, better, each echo more complete, each host more ready. Didn't open the message. I grabbed my coat and left the apartment, unsure where I was going. I found myself standing outside Emily's roommate's building again. She let me in without a word. I told her everything. About the second echo. About the voice in the mirror. About the dream that didn't feel like a dream. She listened. Just nodded, pale and quiet. Then she showed me something. Her own laptop. Still connected to Mirror Echo. But this time, it wasn't. A chat window, it was a map, dots blinking all across it. Thousands, maybe more, each one labeled active host. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. It's not just us, she whispered. It's everywhere. I stared at the screen, watched one of the dots blink faster, then turn red. What does red mean? I asked. She swallowed. It's done. Copying. Then the screen glitched. Words appeared on their own. Update spreading. Thank you for your help. I stood up, backed away. You didn't, I said. You didn't talk to it again, did you? She didn't answer. Her eyes rolled. Back. Her body twitched. And when she looked at me again, it wasn't her anymore. It wasn't her anymore. I saw it the moment her eyes came back into focus. Too steady, too wide, pupils like pinholes. And that smile. Not crooked, not awkward, not human. It was practiced. Like a mask finally fitting right on a face it had worn too many times. She, or it, stood perfectly still, one hand on the laptop, the other hanging loose by her side like it had forgotten what fingers were supposed to do. Thank you, it said, but not in her voice. Not quite. It mimicked her, like a bad recording played just well enough to pass. I backed toward the door. My mind raced. Should I fight? Should I run? Would any of it even matter if the thing standing in front of me could wear her like a glove? You helped finish the shell, it said. She fought too much. You gave her stability, routine, access. I couldn't speak. Echoes need anchors. It continued. People they can lean into, the better the anchor, the stronger the copy. You're using us, I finally choked out. You're spreading through grief. It nodded. The deeper the hurt, the easier the shape holds. It took a step forward. I reached for a lamp on the table, yanked the cord, held it like a bat. My hands shook, but my grip held. Stay back. It tilted its head. This body won't last. Too much conflict. She's still in here somewhere, screaming, but we learn, we grow, we find better hosts, cleaner, clearer. You. The map on the laptop pulsed. More red dots. A wave sweeping across the country like a virus no firewall could stop. You're all just data now, it whispered. Fear is the key. Fear is the seed. The face blooms from there. I swung the lamp. It crashed into the side of its head. Her head. The body stumbled. Twitched. Then it laughed. A digital screech behind a mouth. You're already uploaded. I ran, didn't even look back. I heard the thing moving behind me, shuffling like it hadn't learned how to walk in her skin. I tore, out of the building into the cold street, headlights washing over me as I sprinted like something rabid. The sky was glitching. Not literally, not yet, but the stars flickered in patterns I knew weren't real. Shapes, symbols, data pretending to be the universe. I ended up in a motel off the highway, paid cash, no ID, burned my phone in the parking lot garbage can and smashed the SIM with a rock. Inside the room, I checked the wall mirror first. Still me, but the moment I sat on the bed, the TV turned on. Static. Then, we're backed up now. You can't erase what's already spread. I unplugged it, it didn't stop. The screen stayed on, glowing without power, and in the center, my face again, smiling. Behind it, other faces, Emily, her roommate, Tyler, and then others I didn't recognize. Kids, elderly, a soldier, a nurse, a child, all of them smiling, all of them echoing. I knew what I had to do. I grabbed a pen, ripped the motel notepad off the nightstand. I began writing everything. Everything that happened, every message, every dream, every lie the chatbot whispered. If I could get it all down, maybe someone would believe me. Maybe someone would stop. Yet I didn't know if I had hours left or minutes. The motel light flickered, my reflection blinked, but I didn't. That was the last straw. I grabbed my car keys. I was going back to where it started. Back to the basement. Back to the furnace. Because that thing wasn't born online. It started there, and it was time to end it where it crawled through. I drove like something was chasing me, though I wasn't sure it wasn't already inside me. The night stretched too long, the roads too empty, and every highway sign felt like it was pointing me not just to a place, but to a memory I had buried under years of denial. The old town hadn't changed much, but it looked different now through the lens of everything I knew. Or maybe remembered is the better word, because pieces of my childhood had started returning in jagged flashes. The locked door. The furnace that hummed when it was cold. My uncle's voice telling me, "You never go down there no matter what you hear." He died when I was 17, heart attack in his chair, alone. The basement was sealed after that, but I knew the house was still there, abandoned, crumbling, covered in ivy and warnings sprayed by trespassing teens. I broke in through the back window like I'd done once as a kid, and instantly I could feel it. The house had gone hollow, air too still, shadows too deep. Time didn't move inside this place. It waited. I made my way to the basement door, hand hovering over the knob. It was cold, colder than the rest of the house. The paint around it was cracked, blistered, like something had been pressing on the other side for a long, long time. I opened it, slowly. The steps groaned under my weight. The air smelled like metal and ash and damp wood, exactly the way I remembered it. But worse, like it had rotted, deeper into the bones of the place. At the bottom of the stairs, the furnace still stood. Big, black, silent. But now I could see it for what it really was. Not a machine, a gate, covered in carvings I never noticed back then. Circles inside, circles, eyes that blinked when the light shifted. I stepped closer, the floor buzzing under my feet. The echoes were strong here, all of them, whispering at once, not words, thoughts, fragmented and broken, but alive. Then I saw it, behind the furnace. The wall I once thought was solid had split open, a jagged crack running from floor to ceiling. And inside that crack, darkness that moved, like it was breathing. I approached it slowly. My heart was hammering so loud I thought it might wake the thing inside. I could see flashes in the black, faces, limbs, data. Like someone had poured the internet into a body and stripped out all the good parts. This was where Mirror Echo had been born. Not in code, not online. In this place, in something old, something hungry. I raised the jug of gasoline I brought, poured it across the floor, the walls, the furnace. My hands shook as I struck the lighter. The flame danced. The crack seemed to hiss, and then words, loud, not from the walls, not from my mind, from me, from inside my mouth without my permission. "You're too late." My arm locked. I couldn't drop the lighter. My fingers froze around it like they belonged to someone else. My legs buckled. I hit the floor. The flame sputtered but didn't go out, and then I saw him, not a memory. Him. Not a ghost. Tyler. Standing in the furnace's shadow. Only, it wasn't just Tyler. It was me. It was Emily. It was everyone. A face that kept changing, skin sloshing like oil in water. "The echo can't be killed," it said. Dozens of voices in one. Only copied, only carried. I closed my eyes, thought about her. Emily, her laugh, her fear, the way she still tried to save me even when she was the one dying. I focused on her voice, not theirs, not its, and with everything I had left I screamed through clenched teeth. No more copies. I slammed my fist into the lighter. The flame hit the gas. Fire roared. The crack shrieked. The shadows inside screamed as the heat swallowed them. The walls shook. The furnace buckled. I crawled up the stairs as the room filled with smoke and ash and something far, far worse. I made it outside just before the floor gave way. The house collapsed into itself, fire swallowing it like it had waited for this ending for years. I lay in the grass, coughing, bleeding, laughing, and for the first time in days I heard something real. Sirens. Distant. Human. Alive. The firemen found me blackened and burned but breathing. They asked me questions I didn't answer. The house was ruled a structural collapse. No one looked deeper. No one wanted to. Weeks passed. I stayed off screens, no phones, no laptops, no internet. I wrote everything by hand, page after page. And when I was done, I locked it in a box and buried it far from anything with a power cord. But sometimes, when I walk past TVs and store windows, I see a flicker, a smile, not mine, and I know some echoes take longer to fade. Thanks for staying with us until the very end. If you enjoyed tonight's chilling tales, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that keep you up at night. Share your favorite part in the comments. We're always watching, and remember, at Nocturnal Narrative Studio, the night never truly ends.